We're down to the AFC and NFC championship games. We have NFL superlatives, and we talk about privilege and Mr. LeBron James. This is the We Don't Know Sports podcast. Stay tuned. Welcome back once again to the We Don't Know Sports podcast. This is Chad the Mark with
Mr. Brown
and
Canadian Biggie.
And gentlemen, it is nice to be back once again. We got a whole slate of things to talk about. I'm excited because my Bengals are still alive and well. But something that I didn't feel a huge fan connection with, but I wanted to start with this. I got a little notification on my phone yesterday or the day before because I'm a Reds fan, and it said Scott Rolen got into the Hall of Fame. So what was the process? Why did he get in? Like, what, is this off schedule or is this the regular class they're review? Like, what?
No, this is a regular class.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the McGriff was a special committee voting process.
Okay.
So his was separate.
So is Roland the only one?
Committee.
I mean, they're both considered the same class.
But that's it for this year?
Yeah, those two.
Okay. That's why I guess I was a little confused because it's such a small class and one came from the veterans.
Yeah.
One came from this.
And this was just a regular voting like normal.
Yeah. So you feel good about him being in the Hall?
I mean, I don't have a problem with it. A lot of people try to say they do, but I mean, if Harold Baines is in, I'm fine with Scott Rolen. He played elite defense.
Can we not use Harold Baines' argument anymore? Are we past that? Can we just assume everyone in America realizes he probably shouldn't be in?
Probably.
Okay.
So probably talk about the next guy.
Yeah, whoever the next guy. Like maybe a guy. I know war's not everything, but
Right.
maybe a guy not with a 38.
Right. No, but Rolen, I believe 8-time Gold Glove at third. Great defensive third baseman. He had great years with Philly, Cardinals, Reds.
Who were some other third basemen that played around his era, same time?
I mean, you had
Because I feel like he was known for
Chipper. Chipper played.
And they were both National League.
Right.
I'm just thinking, like, it doesn't seem like as many Gold Gloves as I thought because I just remember him being like that great defensive third baseman.
And Beltre was good, but he was an AL.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think. Who was really better than him during his time he played?
Well, I think that with Rolen, though, there were some injury-riddled seasons in there. So he would have probably had 10 or more had he stayed healthy more.
But I think for the era he played in, like, is it really just him and Chipper over that time? I
mean, he's definitely a better third baseman defensively than Chipper, hands down. So he was probably the best third baseman defensively of his time.
So even though maybe some don't look at him as like that surefire Hall of Famer, I think it's safe to say at least most would probably look at him and say he was that era's A, B third baseman.
Yeah, I mean, and here's a fun fact about Scott Rolen. So this is his 6th year of eligibility, and he is the lowest vote getter for his first year on the ballot to get into the Hall of Fame. You want to guess what percentage he got on year one?
So you have to have at least...
I thought it was 5, maybe.
I think it's 2.
Maybe
I think as long as you got 2%, you go to the next ballot.
Is it next year? I think it's like 5%.
Is it 5? I don't know. Wait, so I was going to base whatever that was, maybe like a percent
lowest
higher.
First year vote getter to make the Hall of Fame in history is Scott Rolen. So what do we think it is?
7%.
10. So first year of eligibility, he went from 10 to 75 or whatever he was at. There's 76, I think.
So why? What happened?
Like that shows some flaw there. I mean, because
you didn't think he was
nothing changed. Obviously,
like you could have voted for him any of those past 5 years.
I think it was a lack of a better supporting cast this time.
Well, it's also him getting more votes is voters with a lack of other options to vote for because the guys who are eligible for the Hall in the same time, they don't want to vote for, but who are better players. Yeah,
they'll vote for the other 10 knowing that he has a chance getting down the road. The biggest jump this year, Todd Helton went from 52 to 72.
And he's about done, isn't he?
He'll get in next year.
Okay.
Because usually when you get in the 70s, you'll get in. There's not a strong candidate list next year. Probably Adrian Beltre's the only new one coming in. So he'll get in, and then Helton's going to get in. Billy Wagner's going to get in.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. Your notable guys for 2024, Adrian Beltre, which – if you look at his numbers, great career, but you don't really think of him as a
Hall of very good. Not
who Beltre? Beltre's a stud.
He did it on such shitty teams, though. He's not out there. You know what I mean?
Beltre's numbers against Chipper Jones, and they're comparable.
Oh, he had great years. What I'm saying is, you don't think
that just
of him.
Didn't matter.
Yeah,
it was garbage.
He played on garbage teams. Yeah. Joe Mauer won a league MVP, several batting tires. At least they were in the playoffs a few times. They got his name out there a little bit more. Chase Utley, Jose Bautista, Bartolo Colon.
He's in the Hall of Fame for the bat flip alone.
Yep.
Adrian
getting his ass
Gonzalez,
kicked by Odor.
Matt Holliday,
No.
Victor Martinez,
The only one is Beltray and potentially Joe Mauer.
Jose Reyes, David Wright,
Nope.
Brandon Phillips. Okay.
Nope.
So we're on the same page. Beltray and Mauer would be the two for the 2024 out of this.
I'm not saying Mauer gets in next year.
But that he will
he'll
get in.
Is there anybody else on there that's been on the ballot that's about to drop off has any chance of getting in, or have we moved past all the asterisk candidates?
Well, there's some of them, like Manny Ramirez is eligible. He's not even getting votes. He's not,
Sheffield got a big jump this year.
And I'm biased because of the age. Yeah, I appreciated what Sheffield was. He was like always a feared hitter when I watched, but does he have Hall of Fame numbers, you feel?
I think he does. He's looking over 500 home runs.
That's like the magic number, right? If you're 500 home runs, you should be in.
And he always hit for power and average. The dude, and he's got the best stance of all time, arguably. You could say he's in the top 5.
Stance, not swing.
Yeah.
The stance is it's like I got you. I saw you.
But I feel like you get Beltray in, definitely Helton, definitely Billy Wagner, and then there's a very good chance Andrew Jones sneaks in because he went up pretty good bit this year.
I feel like
next year, the year after.
I feel like the case for Andrew Jones gets bigger and bigger each year. Like more supporters are coming out for that cause.
So I know he fell off after age 30. I get it. There are 4 players in the history of MLB that have 10 Gold Gloves and hit over 400 home runs. Andrew's the only one not in the Hall of Fame. The other 3, Willie Mays, Mike Schmidt, King Griffey Jr.
All right, so we're saying 500 is a benchmark, right? Like if you're 500, you should be in no matter what. So you give some concessions. If you're 500, you didn't quite get there, but you're a 400. But then you got that whole collection of Gold Gloves.
10 Gold Gloves.
Like, does that count as 10 home runs each time? So we're back to 500.
No, so the thing is, you got Willie Mays Jr. and Andrew, right?
That's a good company.
You could argue that any of those 3 are the best defensive center fielder of all time. And no one would get mad at you if you made the case for any of those 3.
Center fielders, too. Like, these are legends.
Right.
Like, just all time.
On the defensive side, all 3 of those could be considered the best of all time.
It is crazy how whether or not you hit that 500 benchmark makes such a difference because Fred McGriff was side up 493 for so long, and we all said he played one more year, he hits 504
or
home
no
runs.
strike.
Or no strike, and he's in. You look at Gary Sheffield, he had 509, but all you think and care about is he's in the 500 home run club.
Yep.
Well, that's because he had more suspicion. Fred McGriff never had that.
The era they played in
and Sheffield never participated in the Tom Amansky fielding and hitting drills.
Right.
This one's for you.
And just the random blue hat with no logo on it. And that.
Yeah, and it was barely sitting on top of his head.
It was all cockeyed.
Yeah.
So before we go too far off of that, and I definitely want to get to the NBA stuff. So Man Ram, he doesn't get in, does he? Like he's clouded with that because he did get suspended.
I don't think anybody gets suspended will be in. So A-Rod's out, Manny's out, which is why I think Clemens and Bond should get in.
Right. Well, even if you're suspended, you served your time. I mean,
and you still got the numbers after the suspension.
Like, I'm so over this stuff. You know,
and why is it such a big deal in baseball? But if a guy gets caught juiced in the NFL, he comes back and you're like, all right, you can have my fantasy team.
Mike Webster is a Hall of Fame center, damn it.
Like, no one cares.
He died because of steroids.
But no one bats an eye.
No.
It's like the Joker meme. Why is it like that in baseball?
Because the writers have dictated this.
So, you know what we say the magic number is a lot of times as far as WAR goes for Hall of Fame is what?
65 or 70.
But, yeah. That range 70. Manny Ramirez is a 69.
I mean, he's technically right there in the Hall of Fame field.
312 average, 2,500 hits, 555 home runs, big moments. That to me is like Adrian Beltre in the same situation. You would think of him first ballot. That guy's got to be right there. He put up great numbers, but he did it almost hidden where he was at.
It blows my mind that Big Papi's in and Manny's not, because when they played, Manny was the bigger feared hitter than Big Papi.
Yeah.
Like Manny in his prime, I would take him all day over Big Papi.
Yeah, except for the postseason.
Right.
That was the only time it was different. But you're not wrong about any of that. The other question I wanted to ask, too, just in like the curious case of Fred McGriff, does the way the public view you impact your Hall of Fame candidacy? Like, you look at a guy like Sheffield, he's a little...
He's arrogant.
Yeah,
It does a little bit because writers are the ones voting for it.
But like
It's not there's a
McGriff
number
is well
system.
loved.
He's just Mr. Consistent, went about it the right way in quotes. But the fact is, it's not just about the public, because if the public feels that way, there's a good chance they treated the writers that way. So it's going to go hand in hand.
Or they're just going to eat whatever the writers made them read.
Right.
That's part of it too.
You want to take a guess what Adrian Beltre's WAR is?
I'm going to guess. You want to go first?
74.
I think he's in the 80s.
You're both way too low, 93.5.
Wow.
Yeah, I told you.
Yeah.
I think it's probably higher than Chipper Jones.
Like, why is he not first ballot?
He will be.
Okay.
Next year.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's on next year's.
Chipper Jones is an 85.
There you go. I told you that.
So will he go in?
Oh, first ballot.
Just because there's nobody? No,
He's freaking 93. He should go in.
I mean, but like, you're right. But baseball writers are stupid.
Will
man.
he be unanimous? No.
No.
He's
because-
first ballot.
Why can't they get over that now?
That's ignorance. To me, he's clear-cut Hall of Famer.
Like, I want to know, do they release all the votes publicly?
Some people will. I know different
No, I don't
writers
think they're
that
required.
follow.
They're not required to. That needs to change.
Yeah,
That's
right.
bullshit right there.
Be held accountable.
That's a bullshit.
If you have a
text.
spot to vote, we need to know your ballot.
Because if you're not voting for a guy with a 93 WAR, that's a generational talent.
Right.
We should see that I want to know, why don't you think he's a Hall of Famer? Like, answer that question.
Yeah.
Because maybe
Put them
then,
on the podium.
maybe then they'd start doing it the right way. I don't know.
Hold them accountable. Here's the thing. If you get a vote for any of these, you should be required to make your vote public.
Hell yes. Maybe they do. I don't know. I don't think they do that.
Billy Wagner, 422 saves.
Dude.
In the end.
He had an ERA of check Billy Wagner's ERA for his last year when he decided to walk away. So this will blow your mind.
Because he was still dialed in, wasn't
He was
he?
in the low ones.
What?
His last year before he quit.
How old
Age
was he?
40, I think.
Okay.
2010 with the Braves, his ERA was 1.43.
1.43. How many
That's
appearances?
in 71 games.
Okay.
And he decided to walk away. So to me, he's Hall of Famer. He's got a career similar to a Sandy Koufax on longevity, but he walked away at the highest spot. That's the lowest ERA of his whole career.
I think some of it you got to look at how they were in their prime and like what their ceiling looked like if they don't have that longevity. Like, how dominant were they? And he was best in the game. I mean, he was right there. There was another one I was going to ask you about.
So Joe Mauer is an interesting one to me. We think he'll eventually get in. He was a league MVP, 3-time Gold Glove, a hell of a hitter, 306 career average, over 2,000 hits, but 55 for a WAR. He wasn't a great defensive catcher.
I was never a Joe Mauer fan.
They moved into first, and it didn't.
He had like a couple real good years.
I felt like there was so much hype around him, and don't get me wrong, he had a great career, but like to me, when he came up, he was one of those like almost can't miss Hall of Fame talents. But he had a lot of issues staying healthy later part of his career.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up on this, for anyone listening, free Sweet Lou Whitaker. Get him in the Hall.
All right, so we'll uncharacteristically maybe talk about something else that seems off schedule. We just got done talking pretty in detail about baseball because we had some news there. We also got some NBA news, and, it's still early enough in the season. We don't care much about the standings or results, but, we've got a couple of headlines. One, I just wanted to start with, did you see the Shannon Sharp, LeBron James interaction?
All I saw was
John Morant, his family.
I saw Shannon trying to fight the Grizzlies, and then John Morant's dad came out there and got involved. So I don't know much more than that.
And he's like, you don't want this smoke. Yeah. And he was just trying to defend his boy LeBron, right? Is that what this was about?
For whatever reason, he decided to start a conversation with Dylan Brooks and told him, hey, you're too small to guard LeBron. And Dylan Brooks said, shut the fuck up. While Shannon Sharp got butthurt and said, motherfucker, blah, blah, blah. You don't want this smoke.
He's used to dealing with Skip Bayless's ass every day. So, he's got a lot of pent-up aggression. But I couldn't decide the sweater he was wearing. Does that have drip? Yes or no? Like, I couldn't tell.
Dude, you know how much that thing costs? It's a $3,100 sweater.
Of course it has drip. Damn it, I knew it. I should have just assumed it. I wanted that, baby. The thing looked nice. But that was...
I saw the meme with Shannon Sharp and Barney the dinosaur. Now I can't go back.
That's all I ever see when I look at him.
He looks just like Barney.
That's so good.
Stay in your damn lane, Shannon. I'm sorry, you're at an NBA game. No one cares. Just watch the game.
Yeah, but he would have, at 56 years old, he would have whooped whoever got a hold of him, right?
Well, maybe.
Come on.
Maybe.
He would have jacked somebody up. That would have been great. But we didn't get that part of the story. So the other thing with LeBron recently was more about Bronny, and he kind of drew the ire of at least Twitter, a lot of social media, as not being able to check his privilege. So when you're almost a billionaire, I'm assuming he's on his way to, and your son is an up and coming basketball talent, he's been known to throw his weight around here a little bit, and people are not sure how to feel about him being so boisterous here. But anyway,
so he's been offered 3 schools, right? Do you know who they are?
Who are they?
I mean, I was asking. I know one of them is Ohio State.
Okay, but isn't there? I don't know what they are.
There's 3 colleges. One of them's Ohio State, and basically it was, LeBron says that's not all he can do. He can go anywhere in the country he wants. I just got to make a phone call.
so why even recruit him?
Is this a scenario where like he's not living up to the name, just like Michael Jordan's son? I mean, is this what we're dealing with now?
Well, in essence, Bronny, he's a 4-star player. With a
5-star dad.
Father, So here's what I saw that really threw me off. An unnamed source, who, of course, you don't want to be named, said that they were trying to recruit Bronny. Well, here's the problem. You don't actually get to talk to Bronny. You have to schedule a time on a Tuesday or Thursday with the family publicist who will let you get in touch with the mother. Then if things go well, you can talk to Bronny.
So is it overkill?
By the way, you want to guess how much he's averaging as a high school? He's 5-star, right? He's going to come straight to the league and play with his dad. Do you know how many points a game he averages?
16.
6.8.
6 what?
You're lying.
What?
He's a senior in high school? This says freshman.
Varsity totals hasn't went up.
I'll get we'll have to fact check that. Biggie throwing some shade and making some bold claims without backing it up. So we'll see if that holds true. We'll get our research and development team to make sure we're right there. Now, he might be on a team full of other 5-stars. I did see he was on the McDonald's All-American team coming up. So if you haven't got a chance to see Bronny play, I guess you will if you want to tune into ESPNU or whatever that comes on. But I guess my question is a lot of this necessary? Do you feel at all? Just because, his dad is high status. Like, I get the publicist thing. Like, you want to control what happens with that family if possible. But how much of it's just him, being tone deaf and thinking that he can just throw his money around and get whatever he wants?
I think a lot of it's being tone deaf. My kid will have what I want him to have or what he wants to have because of who I am. I think that what sucks is that he is a good, we've seen the videos. Remember, we're all here in Poco, West Virginia. We watched when they came up here on the East Coast and played against Isaac McNeely's team. The only reason we're paying attention because he's a Poca kid.
Our hometown school.
And he's now in Virginia.
Yeah.
A freshman.
And McNeely ends up taking the game over late and then winning overtime. Bronny James was playing, but he clearly wasn't the best player on the court. So when he gets to college, is it his name? Like, he already has a target on his back.
Yeah.
How many guys out there, like Mikey Williams has been a name you heard a lot in AAU basketball up until about this last year with Bronny James, and Bronny James has overtaken him mainly because of his name, because Mikey Williams is still ranked higher as far as their class, and he's a better player.
So I guess my question is, where do you think he ultimately ends up? Does he go to college? Does he do a G League? I mean, what do you think happens?
I think he has to go to college. If he doesn't, he'll get eaten alive. He's just not that talent.
Yeah.
But I want to read a few comments here that was out there on social media.
All right.
The tampering, privileged, corruption. These are all separate ones. Rigged. We have.
Is that just all by Biggie?
Yes. Black privilege at its finest from if LeBron calls a school and the school declines to accept Bronny, the first thing he's going to say is they're racist as usual.
So people were upset.
LeBron can do
about
this, but Louis Laughlin went to prison. I like that one. And then, yikes, if he was good, you wouldn't have to pick up the phone.
So, LeBron James Jr. as a freshman averaged 6.8 points a game. Now, as a guy who's going to go straight to the league and play with his dad, he's averaging almost 14.
I was close. I was close. I said 16.
Dude, 14 points a game? Are you kidding me?
In high school.
But is he on a team full? Like, what's the team averages look like?
Sierra Canyon, they go over the country. So you're right. It could be 4 other kids that are all 5-star prospects.
Because look, if he's already, dictating where he's going to go to school and who gets Bronny and where that NIL money is going to come from, I'm sure he's dictating what high school team he's playing for.
Ohio State, USC, and Oregon are reportedly
I just seen it.
the top 3 choices.
So Oregon is only there because of
Phil Knight.
That's it. Yeah. One of these is not like the other.
But if you think about it, if you're any of these colleges out there and you could get Bronny to come on an NIL deal,
how much would it take? How much would it take? You're going to sell out all your home games
His
now.
dad's already a billionaire, so it's not like he needs money.
No, businessman's always a businessman.
Dad, this is my own money. I don't know. You could give him a couple $1 million a year, probably $3 million.
So I know, like, there's players that make that now. Like, what's Sheepway get from Kentucky?
He got $2 million.
Yeah. So I mean,
well, hell, Bronny's worth $10 million.
That's what I'm saying. It may not be enough. I bet he gets paid more by his college team than he will his rookie NBA contract.
Likely. I do agree. If he doesn't go to college at least for a year and play on a more consistent basis against better talent than also guys that are 21 years old that have adult bodies, he'll get killed when he goes to the league. Because LeBron's 6'9", man, he's a brute. He's a linebacker playing there. Bronny is 6'3",
genetic freak,
190. Yeah. Like, he's going against
He got his mama's genes.
Yeah.
It didn't help.
Steph Curry, Chris Paul, Chris Paul's old, but those guys, he's going to have to try and defend Luka. It's not like he's going to be able to play in the post and maybe hide a little bit.
Right, so it doesn't matter. He's going to play in the NBA though, and it's going to be like the shortest career ever. I think he is, but I guess that's my question: is he going to make it and play with Daddy?
He's going to be the Greg Oden of the guards.
That's not fair. Greg Oden had talent. He was just injury prone.
Did he, though?
Yeah, you're like wishing injury on the young man. I'm not saying we do that.
Oh. Greg Oden, to his defense, looked like he was 35 when he was drafted.
Oh, you thought Albert Pujols lied about his age.
Yeah.
I think he'll end up in the league with his daddy because that's what his daddy wants.
There's too much money to be made there.
I think the only way it doesn't happen would be if LeBron Sr. were to have some type of a career-ending injury. Otherwise, it's happening. Because the NBA even changed that one-and-done rule starting next year.
To steal Biggie's line, I'll say this. He's no ball brother, okay?
All right, we got tons of NFL playoff action to talk because we are down to the Final Four, and we got the championship games this weekend, but they announced most of the finalists, I believe, and all the NFL superlatives, so like Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, stuff like that. So I want to kind of go through that quickly. So where do you want to start, Big? You got them pulled up?
Yeah, we'll start at the bottom, work up, because they do a few different Rookie of the Year ones, defensive offense. So Defensive Rookie of the Year, three nominees are Sauce Gardner, Adam Hutchinson, and Tariq Woolen for the Seahawks.
All right, so I feel like Sauce was winning that one walking away. Am I wrong?
With a name like Sauce, you
that
gotta
helps.
go there.
That helps.
You gotta go there.
Yeah, I think
Hutchinson had a good year.
Yeah, he had a really good year, and you're in New York. Aiden Hutchinson was a baller too, though.
Yeah, great pick by the Lions, the hometown kid there.
But wasn't that the worst defense in the NFL, though?
Well, he had a lot of chances to rush a passer.
I'm just saying. So Gardner, all right.
Gardner probably wins it, but Tariq Woolen was a steal by the Seahawks. They killed it in last year's draft. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Brock Purdy, Kenneth Walker, another Seahawk, Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, Jets.
So I think it's rather Purdy or Walker. I think if you go with who played most of the year, you give it to Walker.
I think it's Walker, but the feel-good story is obviously Mr. Irrelevant.
It's if Purdy would have played 4 more games, I think he probably wins.
I agree. I think it's Walker. If Purdy would have played more than, I think, what he start the last
You don't
5.
you don't think there's a way Purdy steals this one?
No, I think he'd have to play at least half the season, and he didn't. So,
But you look at that offensive, defensive
twice
rookie of the year.
Seahawks are in there, yeah.
2 Seahawks and 2 Jets.
Walker, the first relevant running back since Marshawn.
Coach of the year. Brian Dable, Doug Peterson, Kyle Shanahan. Is there a guy who isn't on that list who should be? Because I have one.
Dan Campbell.
Pete Carroll.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
You're right.
Dan Campbell, damn Lions finished 9-8.
Maybe they can start a comeback coach of the year award and put Pete Carroll in there. So I feel like all these nominees are really good.
It's Peterson.
I mean, it's the biggest turnaround.
Yep.
But then, did anybody think the Giants were going to make the playoffs?
The Giants were in the playoffs and won a playoff game for the first time since 2011 Super Bowl.
I mean,
That's been 12 years. They've been dormant. To me, it's really tough because we're not even really going to talk about Shanahan because all the talent they have.
How's he even in there, though, really?
Dude,
well, I mean,
that team.
they went through 2 quarters. They're down to the third string.
Third string quarterback.
Yeah,
They
blessing
won.
in disguise.
It is.
games.
I agree. That's why he's not going to win.
Doug
No one's better at
Peterson.
7-round draft picks than me.
Doug Peterson, to me, is the coach of the year out of these 3 because that mess that you had your head coach kicking your kicker last year.
I mean, I'm with you. I wouldn't be upset if Daboll wins, but it's definitely
Between them two.
I'm with Peterson though. I'm with you guys. All right, what's next?
So, comeback player of the year.
That's Geno Smith.
Saquon Barkley,
Yeah,
Christian
nice year.
McCaffrey, Geno Smith.
It's Geno.
It's got to be Gino.
How can it not be?
And you're going to err on the side of the quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, you stepped in, you set a franchise record for passing yards, and you made the playoffs.
What year is this for Gino?
This is what, year 9?
9 or 10.
Drafted by the Jets, right?
Jets, yeah.
And he had a chance to start back then, but how long has it been since he's had a chance to be the guy?
He's been a backup for the last 6 years,
Yeah.
I think.
No, I think it's been. Yeah, he had a little bit of time in New York with the Giants too.
Well, if you'll remember, he's the guy that in Eli Manning's consecutive game started streak.
He is.
That's a hell of a
So,
story.
how do you go? So you went from New York market to the other New York market, and you get inserted in the worst possible way. I'm glad he found his way, but he spent time around some other really good quarterbacks. He had Phillip Rivers he backed up. He had, I think Russ is a good
Does he
quarterback.
stay in
It's
Seattle?
not popular to say Russ is
think
a
he
good
does.
quarterback right now. I think you'll give him a hometown discount too.
All right. Well, so we're all on board with Gino.
Yes. All right. Defensive player of the year, Nick Bosa, Chris Jones, defensive tackle, Kansas City Chiefs, Micah Parsons.
If it was the first half of the year, it's Micah Parsons.
And it's not the first half of the year, so it is Nick Bosa.
It's Nick Bosa. It's not. Look, Aaron Donald
Micah-
moved the bar on defensive interior lineman for me. So sorry, you're not winning. That's not the same thing.
Micah still made a lot of splash plays, but Bosa is the most hard to defend against guy, or the most.
He's a game changer
Yeah.
every snap. Like you've got to constantly work at him. There's no
Well, the thing too, and I love Bosa, and he should win it. That defense is so loaded.
And he lines up all over the damn place, so you have to know where he is at all times.
He does too. Like it's never the same place twice. It seems like he's
Like,
always
he's
moving.
done terrorized one guy, and he's having nightmares. He's like, I'm going to switch to the other side now.
Yeah. Although we'll talk more about the games. Micah Parsons kind of disappeared behind Trent Williams, did he not?
Yeah, best left tackle in the game.
Yep. And he's also making $27 million a year. Don't think linemen don't get paid.
Offensive player of the year, which a lot of times could be considered
MVP.
MVP, but they listed it a little different. I think they actually already gave this to Justin Jefferson, if I heard correctly, but they had 4 players: Mahomes, Hurts, Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. Were you guys impressed with the year Hill had in Miami without Mahomes?
I honestly, I think Miami, and I know we can love and hate to at different times depending on how things are going. I think that offense is built to be good. You know, I don't think Tua is necessarily as bad as sometimes we think he is, but Let's say if they had a more versatile pocket passer instead of a guy that scrambles, who knows what his numbers would be.
I'll say that I was more surprised with the numbers that Hill put up than what Mahomes did without Hill.
I'll agree because I don't have it in front of me, but Hill had to have had 1,600 yards receiving this year.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a huge
Double
year.
digits touchdowns.
And he played for, I think, did 4 different quarterbacks throwing the ball this year?
Yeah, but he's one of those players you got to get him involved in jet sweeps and everything you possibly can to get him in space.
Yeah.
He had 1,700 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Oh, so 7 touchdowns. Okay.
So
Still.
touchdowns hurt him a little bit, but yards did not.
No.
Who was the 4 candidates again?
Him, Justin Jefferson, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Offensive Player of the Year.
I mean,
Well, and Jefferson broke the all-time receiving record.
I feel like this should not be a.
So you almost got to go there.
It shouldn't be a quarterback award. They should keep quarterbacks completely out of this.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like apples and oranges there.
And I think that
I think you got to go Jefferson.
Yeah.
Of course, he got one more game to break Moss's record, but still.
What record did he break?
All-time receiving record.
Like yards?
Yeah. Or did he fall just short of it? Or
I
did
thought he got it.
He's got 1,800, 1,809, but I feel like somebody's gotten more than that.
Calvin Johnson? I know going into the last game of the year against the Packers, when I was talking to Bonehammer, he was sure that he was breaking the record in that game, so he couldn't have been that far away.
But didn't he have a really bad game?
Oh, yeah, they did get destroyed, but I don't know. I thought that he broke it. I don't know.
He's the youngest player to ever do so.
This is where Tony and Wilbon look over and get stat correct.
Yeah.
That's right.
He's got the most receptions by a player in his first 3 seasons.
Here's the thing, though. If Moss didn't take a game off that year, he'd still have the record. So it's Moss's fault for taking a game off.
Yeah.
All right, so we go with Jefferson there. Are we moving on now?
We are. We're down to the last one. League MVP. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Jefferson are the 5 finalists.
Mahomes, baby.
It's Mahomes or Hurts, and it's Mahomes.
So Jalen Hurts threw for almost 4,000 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, ran for another 800 yards, 12 touchdowns. He's clearly second to Mahomes here. Mahomes had a career-high 5,200 yards this year, and he led the league in touchdown passes with 41, which isn't his personal best, but it led the league. He also had the best year of his career in completions percentage the year after Hill left. He completed almost 68% of his passes this year.
And that was with a, no alpha receiving core, just like some guys,
I mean, they have a dynamic offensive line. They put a lot of money into it after that Super Bowl loss to the Bucs, but
they got a guy named Kelsey too.
They're trading
He's
for
okay.
receivers like 5 weeks into the season because
Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
Well,
could
they
be
got Juju Smith-Schuster and Marvez Scaldez-Vantling. Like, you got to have 6
go with that.
names.
Exxon Valdez.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
All right, so you ready to just go into the games this past weekend, or we got any more awards? Is that it?
I will say this. If they were to factor it in up into the Super Bowl as far as MVP, I think Joey Burrow could have won MVP.
So it stops at the end of regular season, correct?
Yep.
So it depends on how you look at your MVPs. If it's best player, Mahomes easily. But if you take it to the literal meaning, like how would the team be if you removed him off of there? I think Mahomes, I think Allen, I think Burrow. Obviously, those are all irreplaceable guys. Like there's nothing to be ashamed about being in this conversation.
Chad Henne says otherwise.
Chad Henne tries to show otherwise with 97-yard scoring drives in the postseason. That's when you know Mahomes is hurt, but he's coming back. He's like, I can't let Chad Henne reveal the secret that our offense will work with anybody.
Exactly.
All right, so let's jump into those games. So Kansas City, they had Jacksonville. That game was all kinds of interesting. You had obviously Mahomes with the injury. I was working for most of this game, so I didn't get to see a lot of it. But was this was kind of a comeback game, was it not?
I didn't get to see a lot of it either. I was actually at the Hall of Fame on Saturday.
Oh, that's right.
So
Getting your calves measured.
there you go.
So
I was driving up to Morgantown.
What? That's right. We all did things. So we got
It was a 7 to 10 point game for most of the game. It wasn't a blowout by any stretch. The Chiefs did get out early. The thing I liked the most about it is I had a few texts come in and it's like, oh, Mahomes is done. That ankle looks horrible. They took him out of the game and like Miss Brown was saying, he wanted to go right back in. I love Andy Reid because Andy Reid's like, you're not going back in the game until you have an X-ray and it's not broken.
I mean, how many guys are doing that?
Here's a playoff game my going to be a Hall of Fame MVP QB wants to play. Nah, you go make sure you're okay first.
Yeah.
You could visually see that he was not mobile at all.
Oh, no. Like, even the rest of the game, like, he was hobbling. That touchdown pass, he threw the little jump pass.
He threw off the other foot.
Yeah. I mean, everything about it was awkward.
So, the fact he was even in the game, it was kind of like a Willis Reed moment, honestly. Yeah. So we'll see.
It could be worse this coming weekend for him because that's a high ankle sprain. A lot of times there's guys that can play through it that day, but then the next day and the days after is when it's just a nightmare.
But they had Andy Reid on a podcast. I can't remember whose podcast he was on Tuesday, and maybe it was Wednesday. It was one of his last couple of days anyway. He said that the high ankle sprain Mahomes had in 2019 was worse than this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, but he also said he's going to play.
Yeah. And then I listened to an interview with Mahomes, and he said that he actually had Brittany and the kids coming with him because he's getting 24/7 treatment. So it sounds like he's living at the facility. He'll be a little more limited, but he can reach from pocket. It's not like if he can't run, he's shut down.
Like what percent of Patrick Mahomes do you have to not have in order to be uncomfortable? Like 70% Mahomes is still better than most quarterbacks, right? 50% still better than most quarterbacks.
Well, then you have a whole week of game planning into it. So maybe Andy Reid, who's a genius, comes up with something that doesn't, unless he just gets beat blitz, doesn't read it, he doesn't have to be as mobile.
All right.
Let's switch over to Bengals, man. Talk about your Bengals.
So we got the Buffalo Cincinnati rematch, and we got to talk about DeMar Hamlin eventually too. But anyway,
well, that is why the Bills died.
Wow,
just hit it all together, man.
The Bengals. I've been saying for a few weeks, man, this is a better Bengals team than last year. And even Burrow said that in the press conference. They asked him how he felt about going back out to Burrowhead, and he said, we got a better offense, better line, everything's better. So, like, he's pretty confident.
My favorite Burrow comment after the game was, better get them refunds.
Yeah, they were all talking about them refunds because they were selling those title game tickets. How come they didn't get to do a neutral site for this game? Because you can make that argument. But anyway, I think it works for them when they're the underdog, when they keep looking at being disrespected. So they got disrespected about the Buffalo situation. They've been kind of taken out of that context and who the best teams are in the AFC. It's always Kansas City and Buffalo. I think they proved otherwise. But anyway, Buffalo, they had some issues. Like Diggs wanted to leave the facility. He was pissed off. You saw the video of him and Allen kind of going at it on the sideline. Are the Bills considered just extreme underachievers right now? Or
where do they go from here?
I mean, is this
the window is closing?
Is this their ceiling?
It could be. This was like a Super Bowl bust year for a team that hadn't been to the Super Bowl in 30 years, 25 years. The thing about the Bills is that they're built to a certain point. They don't really have an identity on offense. Like,
zero running game for several years in a row.
You get into a game, you're Buffalo, you play outdoors. They're building a new stadium. We all talked about it's got to be an outdoor stadium. Their team's built to play in a dome. They like to chuck it, and their quarterback is their running back.
Yeah, I think that's what hurt them in the game too. Is like the Bills had a top 3 defense, and man, when you got bad weather like the snow, sometimes the offense can move a little better than the defense, and they're just their window's almost shut.
Tell you what though, man, the Bengals. They have that running game, which just showed up in the weather. So Mixon just did his thing.
Well, and they still threw it. They still threw it like 40 times in that weather.
Like they have that option.
It's balanced,
right?
We said like when McCaffrey was getting traded, like did we all not sit there and say, "Man, could you imagine if we went to Buffalo?"
Right.
And
Burrow was 23 out of 36, 242, 2 touchdowns. Mixon had 20 for 105. P-Ron 7 for 33.
Just balanced.
Yeah.
I mean, they imposed their will.
What was Buffalo's leading rusher?
Josh Allen. I think Singletary had only a few runs. I think he had like a 12-yarder, so he might have been in there. But, the offensive line was supposed to be banged up for Cincinnati, and it was. They had 3 replacement starters, and they imposed their will. Did you figure out the leading rusher for Buffalo? It's all good. I think it was Singletary, but it's not going to be 100 yards.
No,
and in a game like, or it could even be Allen. But it's like they don't even try to run the ball that much. Like,
they never do.
I mean, it's not like you know what to expect. And if you can keep them behind, schedule, they're a wreck.
Josh Allen with 8 carries for 26 yards.
So 26 is their leading rusher.
Yeah.
But who do you have?
Well, here's the thing. He was 8 for 26. Singletary, your starting running back, 6 for 24. Cook, your other running back, 5 for 13. So your quarterback had 8 carries. Your 2 running backs had 11.
That's terrible.
And they didn't even average that bad. But then part of the problem is they did get down. And when you're down, sometimes you have a tendency to pass a little bit more. You abandon some of your game plan stuff.
So turmoil in Buffalo. But let's talk about the elephant in the room.
All right.
Conspiracy theorists out there.
So, did you see Damar Hamlin at the game?
I saw he came out. He had a hoodie on. He had his entourage around him. Never saw the guy's face. I thought it was the dude that does those online videos with the white mask. That's how it reminded me of.
All the
what's his name? Unknown or something?
No, Anonymous.
Yeah. That's how I felt like I was seeing walking out there. So now everyone's saying it. And I didn't know this until my son actually told me. We were walking into Walmart. He was like, Dad, did you hear what everybody's saying about the Bills player that got hurt? And I'm like, what? He says, people think he's dead.
So, it wouldn't be that far of a stretch to think the NFL would try to cover up a player death. But the reason why people think this is because they haven't really seen his face.
They tried to show him in the box at the game. It was snowing. You couldn't see anything. But I sent you guys that picture earlier. That's more of the conspiracy theory where he's standing next to his own mural, but he's got a hood down over his face so you can't see
who is this guy? And so here's my question. Is it what do you think?
Clearly he's alive, man. This isn't Tupac or Elvis on opposite ends.
I saw, what was it, Aubrey Huff, the baseball player who's kind of in Twitter trouble all the time. He was really questioning it. And the first response to him was, well, he's been active on Twitter. It's like, oh, clearly he's alive. That's all the evidence I need. His Twitter accounts were...
Well, Aubrey's big thing was the fact that it was all everyone talked about, and then now it's crickets. Yeah. Like, no one's talking about it anymore. Of course, he's out of the hospital.
I was saying, they were talking about it at the game like crazy.
I felt like I seen him in the hospital, though. They showed his face when he was recovering in the hospital.
Yeah, so I think...
would he have a term for the worst?
So here's what I'm saying. All right, so one, dude almost died. Technically did for a minute, I guess. Sometimes you can get facial paralysis. He could have had stroke-like symptoms. Maybe he's got the droop going on and he don't want anybody to see that. The other thing is you just had a serious heart issue. You're probably wearing masks all the time right now because you can't get sick. You don't want to compromise your recovery at all. I need a little more evidence than that. But
is he alive, Biggie?
Yes, he is.
I thought you were going to argue this. Damn it. You can choose to do so.
Didn't you have a friend try to convince you otherwise?
Oh, no. They sent me all the stuff and said they were turning social media off. Earlier in the week, I was talking to my buddy Jeremy, who's a huge Bills fan. That's why he said, I'm going to go for a dry January because if I have any more of this, I might lose my mind.
I got to say one last thing about the. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to. I want to say this. Damar Hamlin's out there a little bit. Would make sense for him to not see his face. It was through the snow. Blah blah blah. Markelle Fultz though did die between the draft and his first game in the NBA. We can visit that another time.
It's not a deep fake. He's just really dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
So his stunt double had to play and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, that's why he went from being a nice perimeter shooter at Washington to not being able to shoot a free throw in the NBA and having to go to psychological care.
People get the yips, man. It happens. Who were we talking about the other day that had the yips?
Several people.
No, there was a big text exchange. I can't remember what it was now.
And then they were saying, oh my God, Mark Wohlers.
I said Mark Wohlers. I said that. What were we talking about? Who's got the yips? What brought that up? This is like a huge conversation we had with a bunch of people. I can't remember now.
Oh, Brett Maher.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Bringing it back to the NFL.
Because then they kicked the field goal that was blocked, but it was clearly going left.
Poor bastard. He ended up making some kicks, so I guess it worked out all right.
We'll go to that game. Go ahead and go to that game.
So last thing I want to say about, did you hear Buffalo's GM when he was saying, well, it'd be nice if we could draft someone like a Jamar Chase. Did you hear that?
No.
Yeah, he's salty, man. He's like, I'm just not willing to go through the bad years you would have to go through to get draft picks like the Bengals have had.
Wow.
And I was like, and he specifically mentioned Chase. And I'm like, bitch, you traded the pick for Justin Jefferson to get Stephon Diggs. Like, shut up. Like, you're a moron. Like, what a salty look, though.
So, of the other two games of the weekend, Giants-Eagles isn't worth talking about.
Yeah, we can just finish that one, right?
Yeah.
What happened? They are who we thought they are.
Oh, God.
It was what it is.
Giants were happy to be there. Move on.
Congratulations.
Niners-Cowboys on Sunday. Did you get to watch any of that game?
Yes.
What'd you think of it?
So it went kind of how I thought it would. I thought Dallas's defense would step up as well. San Francisco's defense played well. But who's getting all the blame?
Dak, because he played like crap.
Yep.
He went from the week before against the Bucs. What do you have? 5 total tutties. So 4 pass, 1 rush. And then he gave away 6 points. The one pick he threw, the defense held to a field goal early in the game, but that really should have been a pick 6. The other one driving before halftime, he throws a pick where they're going to have at least a field goal attempt, which Mar did end up going 2 for 2 in the game. San Francisco goes down to the other end and gets a field goal. So there's 6-9 points in that game that you lose 19-12. My question for you guys. Do you remember when the Colts played the Patriots a few years ago? I think it was either Monday or Thursday Night Football, and they lined up with the punter under center.
Oh,
and you knew they weren't going to snap it?
Dude, I laughed so hard when they lined up, and like Zeke just got pancaked. Like, what do you expect? You know that, I don't know who it was. It might have been freaking Fred Warner. Like, he just, like, I'm going to tear him.
Like somersaulted, reverse somersaulted.
So we got Shannon Sharp and Barney. That was Zeke's Ewok moment.
That was.
Right?
I saw this one, and it was the Practical Jokers, and it said, okay, now throw it to a guy who's triple covered for 10 yards. That guy got blown up, too.
Yeah.
The great thing about Dak's Bakery, it's even open on Sundays.
It is.
Any turnover you want.
All right, so here's
lost his girlfriend.
Here's my question.
I'd leave his ass, too.
They were in the game to the very end. They lost. Number. It was final 16-13?
19-12.
19-12. I knew it was a close game, but how much is it 100% the Cowboys and Dak, and we're going to blame him, versus is San Francisco's defense just that good?
San Francisco's defense is number one in every statistical category that matters. If they go on and win the Super Bowl this year, especially with, rookie Mr. Irrelevant at quarterback, they're going to be remembered the way we think of those early Ravens defenses with Ray Lewis. Maybe not like the 85 Bears, but the Legion of Boom defense, they're just that good.
Are you saying that Brock Purdy is comparable to Joe Flacco? No, Trent Dilfer. It was Trent Dilfer.
Hey,
that would make sense.
Trent Dilfer was a top 10 pick. Don't shit on Trent Dilfer.
Yeah, they're nothing alike.
Trent Dilfer just got a D1 coaching job.
He did. He likes to yell at high school kids. I saw that on videos before. Anyway, so
Dak in this game.
Give me a percentage, though. Like, where do you put the blame? 50%, is it split?
I put about 60-65% on Dak. You're the quarterback. You get the blame. You get the credit. He was 23 of 37, 200 yards, 2 picks, and both his interceptions were horrible. I will say this, losing Tony Pollard in the first half.
I was going to ask, would that change the outcome of the game?
I don't know if it necessarily changes the victory, but I think the second half plays out a little bit different.
But watching that game, it is quite clear that Zeke's not a back anymore that can handle 3 downs. It's very clear.
No, he's still not a bad running back, but he's not elite anymore.
He can't. He has to be in a timeshare.
Yeah, he's a short yardage goal line back.
That's what he was used for.
Yeah. He's not a center.
Exactly.
All right, so
he's no Taysom Hill.
Few are. Not even Tebow's Taysom Hill.
That's right.
Brock Purdy on the other side of it, 19 of 29, 214 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah, he looked like he came down to earth a little bit in this game.
Yeah, he looked like a rookie at times, but he also didn't make the mistake, and that's the difference in the game.
That's what I was going to say. We're reading off, stats, if you were to look at the Dallas side of it, it looks a little bit better, at least receiving. Schultz, CeeDee Lamb both had good games. If you look at San Francisco, you think they must have ran the ball down the throat. Purdy didn't do so well. Elijah Mitchell, 14 carries, 51 yards. Christian McCaffrey, 10 carries, 35 yards.
Yeah, so I mean,
Spectacular.
They had a tough day. Defense won that game.
Yep.
I mean, imagine all that offensive talent they got, and defense can still win you the game. Like that's why we've been saying San Francisco is probably our favorite the whole way. So let's go to the championship game predictions. All right, so let's start with the AFC. You got Cincinnati going into Burrowhead. They've won the last 3 meetings against the Chiefs. Mahomes has got the ankle sprain. The line, I don't know what it is now. It started at 2.5 Chiefs favorites. It slid all the way down to a pick 'em. I've seen it go +1 for Cincinnati.
Right now on DraftKings, they have the Chiefs as a 1-point home favorite.
So it's back to 1. It's just following the money.
But it's moved 5.5 points throughout the week.
So, we can look and see where all the money's coming in. I bet it's still coming in on Cincinnati. When I first looked at it, the reason on the line moved, it said 96% was on Cincinnati. I've never seen one that high.
Well, because they were giving them 3 points on the road in a game where most people were like, Mahomes isn't going to be. I bet Vegas just hedging what they do. But, yeah, that was quite a crazy swing.
So on Pick Watch, it's got it as a pick 'em and 74% on Cincinnati right now. So, Mr. Brown, start with you.
Yeah, I want to jump in here. So here's the deal. He's got the extra motivation that he hasn't beat them, right? I think that actually gives more pressure to Joe Burrow at this time because he has a better team around him like you've talked about. To me, what's going to happen is, because I said this months ago, Chiefs are going to